Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. Today I have the old new disc box, and I'm going to go through a collection update, if you will. And it's a little bit of a smaller one, but there's at least one movie in here that I totally love, and a couple others that I really like, and just a bunch of stuff to talk about. So let's get into this. We'll start with Blue Underground and their latest 4K offering, and it's a beauty. Not surprisingly, this looks fantastic. Looks really, really good. This is a film that I had never seen before, and I was certainly interested and curious about it because it is, it's called Two Evil Eyes, and it is directed half by George Romero and half by Dario Argento. You could kind of call it like Creepshow 2.5, I guess, if you want, because that's sort of the vibe you get from this. I think both are based on Edgar Allan Poe stories, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be. But the first section, it's a 2-hour film, but basically Argento and Romero each get an hour. So we start with Romero's feature, and it's called The Facts in the Case of Mr. Valdemar, and it stars the wonderful Adrienne Barbeau, as well as, I'm forgetting this actor's name. He reminds me, Rami Zada is his name. I saw him first in After Midnight, the 1989 version. He plays like a teacher who wants all his students to know about fear in that film, and he sort of sets up the whole storytelling that happens in After Midnight. Anyway, he reminds me of somebody, and I can't think of who, but the idea is that Adrienne Barbeau is married to an old rich guy who is on his deathbed, and she is trying to finagle some money out of him before he passes away. She was apparently an airline stewardess that he fell for and married, and now it's getting near the end, and she doesn't have any money to live on, and his estate, even when he dies, which is uncertain when he'll die, would take maybe a year or two to wrap up, and she will have no money. So she's trying to get some money. In the opening scene, basically we see her go to his, I guess, attorney or financial advisor or something, and bring this form that says he'd like to withdraw like 20% of his assets, some really high amount that makes the advisor lawyer guy, played by E.G. Marshall, very suspicious. And so she calls him on the phone, and he talks to the guy. And then his doctor cuts in and says, is this really important? Because he's very sick, and I don't want him to, get any sicker, so we got to cut this short. So long and the short is she's able to finagle some of this money via this little transaction. And then we come to find out that, of course, there's some underhanded dealings, and I'm not going to go into specifics, but it is a very Creepshow kind of story in terms of what happens. And I'm just going to kind of leave it there because it's it's a fun one to watch play out. I think it was my favorite of the two stories. I preferred it to Argento's, which is called The Black Cat, which has a really interesting cast. I'll say that for it. And it's more about this guy who's like a crime scene photographer, artiste type, and he's played by Harvey Keitel. And he is living with this woman who is a musician. She plays violin and teaches violin or teaches music to younger people. And this cat shows up, and Keitel ends up, not getting along with the cat. He takes some pictures of it while he's sort of choking it and ends up killing the cat. But the cat comes back, and anyway, I'm not going to say any more about that one. But it also stars Martin Balsam, John Amos, and Tom Atkins shows up towards the end. Actually, Tom Atkins is in the Romero one. He shows up at the end of that. But Tom Savini shows up at towards the end of the Argento one, which is very entertaining. I think that's what I think I'm remembering that right. But yeah, it's an interesting pair of, short films, really, in a way, or anthology in a short form. And I'm glad I finally saw it. And as I said, this 4K looks fantastic. The colors are super vibrant and clear, and the detail is very fine. And I just was really impressed, as I always have been with these Blue Underground 4Ks. Like, they are top of the line, doing some of the best work out there right now. I can't recommend them enough in terms of the 4Ks. You need to check these out. If any of these films that are coming out in 4K have any interest to you whatsoever, this is the format and this is the company you want to get them from. So, very cool stuff. This has a commentary by Troy Haworth, who of course wrote Murder by Design, the Unsane Cinema of Dario Argento. And that's on the 4K disc. But the disc 2, the Blu-ray, has a bunch of other features. It has Two Masters' Eyes, interviews with Dario Argento and George Romero, special effects makeup supervisor Tom Savini, who worked on this apparently a little bit, executive producer Claudio Argento and Asia Argento, and then Savini's effects, a behind-the-scenes look at the film's special makeup effects. I guess he was a major part of the effects, which is another reason to watch this. And the effects are pretty good. They're interesting, definitely. Let's see here. At Home with Tom Savini, a personal tour of Tom Savini's home. Very cool. Adrian Barbeau on George Romero. Before I Wake, an interview with star Rami Zada. Behind the Wall, interview with star Madeline Potter. One Maestro and Two Masters, interview with composer Pino Donaggio. I forgot he did the music. Rewriting Poe, an interview with co-writer Franco Ferrini. The Cat Who Wouldn't Die, interview with assistant director Luigi Cozzi. And Two Evil Brothers, interview with special makeup assistant Everett Burrell. And Working with George, interview with costume designer Barbara Anderson. So a ton of stuff on this Blu-ray and 4K combo pack. And this is what the alternate artwork looks like. Both are discs. So yeah, definitely a thumbs up on Two Evil Eyes from Blue Underground. I'm going to change gears here and talk about some cartoons. This is the latest cartoon offering from Warner Archive. This is the Herculoids, which is a circa 1967 animated show from Hanna-Barbera. In the vein of, but definitely very different from Johnny Quest. In fact, it features some voice acting carryover from Johnny Quest. But it is basically the story of this family who, look to be prehistoric, but they're on a special planet that they have to themselves, and they just can't get any time alone. There's always somebody invading their planet and bothering them. And so you have the whole family, and this is one that I just always remember loving. I think from USA Cartoon Express. I think this is one of the cartoons they used to show on there, and this group of creatures always captivated my imagination. You have Igu the rock ape. You have Zoc, the flying dragon thing. You have the Tundro, the Triceratops-looking guy who can shoot these powerful pebbles out of his horn. And then you have Gloop and Gleep, who are the sort of blobby-looking guys who could stretch and fold and jump and have quite the multi-purpose characters. And then, of course, the family is Xandor, his wife Tara, and his son Dorno. and they just, getting cool adventures every week, and they are kind of unstoppable. It seems like, somebody will show up, some mad scientist, some space pirates, and they think that they can defeat this group, but they just can't. I mean, the Herculoids are just really powerful. I mean, Igu alone is pretty hard to stop. Like this giant rock ape. Like, how do you stop that guy? And, Zoc is pretty awesome as well. Can be like shoots little lasers. Gloop and Gleep are voiced by Don Messick, of course, of Scooby-Doo fame. All of them have cool sounding like growls or yells and screeches, and I think it's very funny when the family talks to them, like if Xandor is riding Zoc and he talks to Zoc and tells Zoc to go somewhere, they'll get like a screech in response, and I just always thought that was funny. But they are just super cool in action, and it's a great cartoon from the 60s that I dig very much. And I love that it's the complete series. So you have 3 discs, the whole series spread out over 3 discs. And of course, again, like with Blue Underground and their 4Ks, Warner Archive does a wonderful job with the restorations of these cartoons. They look better than you've ever seen them look. The color is excellent, and they're just great to have all in one package. And so I was really excited that Warner Archive decided to do this. I hope that they will bring out some more of their classic Hanna-Barbera stuff moving forward. They've done a great job in recent memory of doing this, but I'd love to see some more. Not that I'm not happy with what's come out. There's so many cartoons. Come on, let's get some Clue Club on Blu-ray for all that. I don't know. Anyway, I love Clue Club as far as Scooby-Doo knockoffs go. But so this has a very short special feature called First Family of Planet Quasar, which is the planet that the Herculoids are from, where they live. And it's only about 5 minutes, but it is a great little retrospective look back at the show and, Alex Toth and his involvement. And, they talk to Jerry Beck and some other animation specialists. And it's very informative. For 5 minutes, you learn a lot, and it gives you a good sense of the history of this show and like what Hanna-Barbera was doing before it. And they show some, some artwork that was temp before the show came out and stuff like that. So very neat little feature to have. And I just love having the whole series. So definitely check out the Herculoids on Blu-ray. Next up, we have something from MVD. This is a documentary. It is The Go-Go Boys, the inside story of Cannon Films. This is sort of another angle on the Electric Boogaloo documentary that came out a few years back that was all about the Cannon Film legacy, if you will. And this is more from the perspective of Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus, the cousins that made their way in Israel, making films there before they came over to the States, and obviously blew the doors off with Cannon Films in the 80s. They just owned the 80s. So this is neat in that it is very much from their perspective. Some would say it is maybe too much of a vanity piece and maybe too much focused on them and making them look good. And that's a fair criticism, I would have to say. And if I'm being honest, I might prefer Electric Boogaloo to this film. But that said, I do like seeing a lot of the early Israeli filmmaking stuff that they were doing and hearing their sort of history and how they got started, and then sort of seeing how they built things. They don't go... I guess I would have liked if they went a little more in depth on the movies themselves, but I mean, there's so many, it would take forever to go through all of them with any amount of depth. And I think the other thing that maybe disappointed me slightly is that they do talk about the failures and how the company went into decline, but they don't go too specific other than, some old interviews and some journalists talking to them, years ago, and or just saying things like Canon is in financial trouble after blah, blah, blah. So I guess I would have liked to know a little bit more about the failure side of things, but I also understand that that's, not something they want to talk about necessarily. But yeah, overall an interesting documentary, and one that, as a fan of Canon films, I certainly appreciate and I recommend people give it a look. But don't expect it to be the same kind of sort of spectacle that Electric Boogaloo is, because it's not that. It's more personal and grounded in the two guys. As it's called, the Go-Go Boys, it's clear that's what it's going to be about, and that's what it is. So worth a look. Doesn't really have anything in the way of special features. There is a collectible poster on the inside that you can pull out and put up on your wall. And the artwork, there's the alternate artwork there. But this is, when I heard this was coming out, I was definitely curious about it, and I'm glad I saw it. This one is from MVD, so definitely worth a look. Then I've got 3 here from Indicator in the UK. These are all region locked. These are region B discs. Indicator is one of my favorite labels. I've said it hundreds of times at this point on this channel, but why not one more time? But I will say that I do love them, and they are a reason to get a multi-region player, because pretty much all their stuff has been region locked for the last little while, and they're putting out a ton of great movies, and it's well worth investing $100. If you go to 220 Electronics, they have a $100 multi-region Blu-ray player. I think it's about $100, maybe just a little bit more. It's right around there, but it works great, and it solves your multi-region problems, and you will not regret it, because between Eureka and Indicator and the Overseas Aero stuff and 88 Films and so many other things that you can't get here in the States. Second Sight, huge fan of Second Sight. These are all reasons to get a multi-region player. So I got to just bring that up when I talk about Indicator, because this is one of the ones. I mean, this had come out previously from Twilight Time, so you could have gotten a domestic release of it. But this is one of my favorite detective movies from the 70s. The Big Fix. It is directed by Jeremy Paul Kagan and stars Richard Dreyfuss, among others. Dreyfuss stars as a sort of ex-radical turned detective in L.A. Named Moses Wine. And he's sort of, he's got a lot going on. He's divorced. He's splitting custody of his 2 kids with his wife, played by Bonnie Bedelia, and still trying to do his private detective stuff. And he runs into an old flame, played by Susan Anspach, who works for a political candidate whose office is run by John Lithgow, which is great. And this political candidate has run into a problem where somebody is putting out these inflammatory flyers that tie him to an extreme radical figurehead called Howard Epps, who will be played by oh shoot, I'm gonna forget who plays Epps. But anyway, so he has to try and figure out, like, who printed the flyers, who's trying to smear this candidate, is this candidate got anything that he should be hiding, and things along those lines. And so it becomes sort of a political kind of thing, but it's a very, I don't know, it's just a very well done detective film. And Moses Wine is a very clever guy. He's very smart-mouthed, and it's one of my favorite Richard Dreyfuss performances. I think he's just really good at it. And I found out through a really nice interview that you get on this disc here You get an audio commentary with Little White Lies editor David Jenkins, and then you also get a about 23-minute interview with Jeremy Paul Kagan himself. And it says here he discusses his early career, which he does, but he also talks about this film in depth. And one of the neat things among many that come out is that Richard Dreyfuss broke his arm a few weeks before the production, and they were trying to decide if they should shut down or, just plow through. And Kagan was like, I think they might cancel this movie if we postpone it, so let's write it into the script. And it's one of my favorite running jokes in the movie is that he has this broken arm with the cast, which apparently now I know is a real broken arm. And every time somebody asks him what happens or what happened to break his arm, he makes up a new story. And they're all very silly and ridiculous, and he just kind of glosses over them. And at the very end of the movie, you find out what really happened. And but anyway, a great LA movie, a great detective movie. I've seen it paired with The Long Goodbye. I've seen it paired with other great detective movies, and it's just underrated and underseen. So this also has an interview with screenwriter and writer of the novel. The Moses Wine character, I believe, is in multiple novels. I could be wrong about that. He's interviewed in this, and then there's an archival TV interview with Richard Dreyfuss. And the actor and producer in conversation with Bobby Wygant, archival TV interview with Jeremy Paul Kagan, Roger L. Simon, and Carl Borak. That's from 1978, also with Wygant, and trailers, TV spots, etc. I've said it before, but Indicator knows how to cater to collectors, so they really know how to put together a really wonderful booklet. This is better than what you can get from a Criterion Blu-ray right now in terms of the booklet. It's glossy, it's well, put together, and I just love it. So that is The Big Fix, one of my favorites, and highly, highly recommended if you haven't seen it. That is new from Indicator. Next up, we have Day of the Dolphin. This, of course, Mike Nichols' film from 1973, on the heels of Catch-22, I want to say, because he had done The Graduate before that. And a very interesting movie, maybe not a complete success in terms of its narrative, but it is Mike Nichols and Buck Henry working together again, and there is a really neat archival interview with Buck Henry that's about 12 minutes on here, where he talks about the film and how writing a melodrama was trickier than he would have expected. And anyway, the basic plot is that there is this island where these scientists are working with these dolphins to teach them English. George C. Scott is one of them. And of course, the dolphins, when they are discovered they're sort of funded by some kind of agency, and somebody finds out about it. And then it becomes a thing where, like, ooh, could we use these dolphins to plant mines on the bottoms of boats if we could talk to them and instruct them? And so I won't go too much further in the plot description of this, but there's some stuff in here that, I don't know, it may not play that well. I don't know if it did then, where George C. Scott is talking to the dolphins and they kind of talk back and they actually have some vocal response that's not just clicking. And I think Buck Henry is part of the vocal response. And he also has a great joke about how he would have loved to have voiced other animals, but he was pigeonholed as a dolphin guy after this movie. Anyway, so an intriguing film, certainly, and a heck of a nice special edition, for sure. 4K restoration, 2-channel stereo and 3-channel stereo audio tracks, selected scene commentary with film historian Sheldon Hall, Days of My Life, that's 2021, that's new, 44 minutes with actor John Corks, who details the production of Day of the Dolphin. He actually talks about how he met Mike Nichols and how he came to work with him in Catch-22 and how he got the job for this film. And he's a great orator. He's a great raconteur. and tells some great stories about the production, as does Buck Henry, by the way. He has a great story that I know I've heard him tell before about George C. Scott. Apparently on the island had like 2 Mastiff dogs that were antsy, and at one point, I don't know if it was during a shooting day or not, but he told the dogs, like, sit down, and Buck Henry swears that 150 people sat down because of the way that George C. Scott's voice just rumbles and commands a room or a space. Everybody sort of just followed suit. But there are definitely some interesting stories amidst these extra features. So you have that John Corks, and then you have an in-depth discussion with film of the film by second assistant director and longtime Mike Nichols collaborator Michael Haley, another guy who goes into the history of how he met Nichols and then this film, and some of his other work that he did with Nichols after this. There's an archival like I said, with interview with Buck Henry, which is maybe one of my favorite interviews on here. He's just so Buck Henry. He's just very funny and sort of straight-faced but silly, but great. They talked to Edward Herman, who's another actor in the cast, and he has some interesting recollections of George C. Scott, of working with the Dolphins, etc., etc. And then there is, let's see here, Larry Karaszewski, Trailer from Hell. And there is, I want to say there's another interview with one of the actors, and I'm forgetting which one. Trish Vanderveer, I think, is interviewed on here as well. So it's got just a ton of interviews and commentary and another great booklet, another hefty, nice booklet. And it's got some alternate artwork there. And yeah, just a nice release. This had come out from Kino Lorber, so you can get this stateside, but I think it only has a commentary track and doesn't have any of this other stuff. So if you like this film and you are interested in stories about the production, which seems fascinating, 3 months in the Bahamas, a lot of people seem to enjoy themselves. This is a great disc for that. And then last but not least, this one here is from Werner Herzog, and it is Invincible. And this is a film that I have not seen. And so I was very curious to see this one. It's from back in 2001, and I just know it's about a Jewish strongman who performs in Berlin, and it stars Tim Roth and Udo Kier, and I don't know too much else about it, honestly. But, you know, it's a latter era Werner Herzog film, and I've liked some of his latter era stuff. So let's see here. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is written, directed by him. And this is a really, I think this is a Blu-ray debut. I don't think this has been available on Blu-ray before. This one is actually all region, now that I'm looking at it here. And another really stacked special edition, 2K restoration, original German audio as well as original English 5.1 and 2.0, audio commentary with Herzog, which I think was on the DVD. Road to Invincible, that's new, 27 minutes with cinematographer Peter Zeitlinger. Discusses his longtime collaboration with Herzog in making this film. Archival interview with Peter Zeitlinger from 2001, 13 minutes. Let's see here. Location footage from 2001, previous unseen footage. 3 early short films by Zeitlinger. Katharina Blum, Experiment Rainer's Garden, and Geburtstag. Yeah. So, and this also has a booklet with an overview of the critical responses, and a new essay by Jason Wood, and Werner Herzog, apparently, I guess, interviewed. So there's a nice booklet in there as well. And again, all region, and I believe a Blu-ray debut if you're a Werner Herzog fan. This one has always intrigued me, so I can't wait to check this one out. I didn't get a chance to check it out before this video, but definitely going to be enjoyable. And last but not least, I'm sure you've seen people talk about this already, but I just had to bring it up because, one, it's a great movie. Deep Cover, Bill Duke's film Deep Cover from 1990. I'm going to forget the year that it came out. 92. And I was just really impressed with Criterion for putting this out, as it didn't seem like the kind of film that would be next in line for them. And I'm so happy that they did, because like I said, it's a great movie. Bill Duke is a great director, among my favorite character actors of all time. Just fantastic. And a really powerful story, and really, really well performed, of course, by Larry Fishburne. Basically, the story of this guy who, as a kid, sees his father, who's a drunk, killed robbing a liquor store, like right in front of him, and ends up being a cop in Cleveland, and is somehow connected with sort of a DEA, I want to say a DEA fella, played by the always memorable Charles Martin Smith, who enlists him to go to LA and start helping them with taking down some drug folks. You know, he's going to go out there and start buying drugs and getting in with some of the low-level dealers and trying to find some things out for them. And he does that, and he does a really good job. And he gets in friendly with one of the dealers. He gets in friendly with one of the dealer's partners, who is this rich guy played by Jeff Goldblum, who is playing a different character than we've seen in a little while. He's kind of a villain. He's still charming. It's a really unique performance in his career. I've seen him do villains, and he does a good job. I've seen him do, smart aleck types and stuff like that. But this guy is somewhere out there, somewhere different. And he's really good. It says film noir hits the mean streets of the 1990s in Los Angeles in this stylish, subversive underworld odyssey from veteran actor-director Bill Duke. Lawrence Fishburne stars as Russell Stevens, a police officer who goes undercover as John Hull, the partner of a dangerously ambitious cocaine trafficker, that's Goldblum, in order to infiltrate and bring down a powerful Latin American drug ring operating in Los Angeles. But the further Stevens descends into the ruthless world of money, violence, and power, the more disillusioned he becomes, and the harder it is to make out the line between right and wrong, crime and justice. Steeped in shadowy, neon-soaked atmosphere and featuring Dr. Dre's debut solo single, Deep Cover, is an unsung gem of the 90s black cinema explosion that delivers a riveting character study and sleek action thrills alongside a furious moral indictment of America and the devastating failures of the war on drugs. So it's a new 4K digital restoration, which looks very good. 2.0 sound, DTS HD. New interview with director Bill Duke, also very good. AFI Conservatory Seminar from 2018 featuring Duke and actor Lawrence Fishburne, moderated by film critic Elvis Mitchell, also great. New conversation between film scholars Raquel J. Gates and Michael B. Gillespie about Deep Cover's place within both the black film boom of the early 1990s and the noir genre. And that's definitely something I'd forgotten, is just how noir this is. And I wouldn't even have really picked up on that back in 92 when I first saw it on VHS. I wasn't as sort of steeped in noir as I am now, and I wouldn't have understood the fatalism and how it runs through this film in such a big way. And stylistically, it's very noir also. But anyway, let's see. New conversation between scholar Claudrina N. Harold and professor, DJ, and podcaster Oliver Wang about the film's title track and its importance to the history of hip-hop. And so that is, and then there's an essay by Gillespie in here as well, in this nice little booklet. Again, not a dig, but not nearly as nice as the indicator booklets. But yeah, I'm still very excited this came out. Hoping some people are checking out Deep Cover for the first time because Criterion has shown a spotlight on it. And I'm very happy with this Blu-ray. Definitely worth checking out. So that's it for this collection update. As I always say, I hope there's something in here that you folks can enjoy. Let me know in the comments below. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.